work like mechanics, solids, fracture, computational mechanics, finite elements. I was okay.
Right.
So I came in and I got funding right off the bat, so that was good. I had come in with one semester worth of money,
Right.
and the idea was if I'm not able to get funding, then I'll probably just get a quick master's and evaluate my future. But I got funding, so I continued. So it didn't work out with my first advisor, and I switched from my first advisor to my PhD advisor, and that's the reason why, like, I had a master's and a PhD again because I had a master's, so I didn't need a master's. But with my previous advisor, since the thing didn't work out, he thought like just write a report and then start applying elsewhere. I can fund you for another semester through TA. But thankfully, within the university itself, there was a professor who was ready to hire me, Mary Wheeler, and I continued with her for a PhD. I worked with her for 4 years and finished it. And then after that, I worked at a national lab, Los Alamos. Now, the location was a little too remote for me, and the work profile also was a little boring because
Do they hire internationals?
in my division they do. Like in computational earth science, they still do.
Okay. Because Los Alamos, Sandia, they don't hire internationals. That's what I was thinking.
Sandia definitely does not. Sandia is very applied.
No,
Los Alamos.
they don't hire internationals, Sandia, because most of the work is DoD, right? So they don't hire.
Right. Whereas in Los Alamos, actually, it's primarily, since it's a science-based national lab, they do hire a lot of internationals.
Okay.
But the applied work goes to Americans. So there was this American who was sitting in the nearby cubicle, and he was working on a software. He used to go to the site visits and stuff, which I never had an opportunity. I was working on a Python workflow.
Right.
So the work was a little boring, and the promise that I actually went there on was that I'll be working on 2-3 projects simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, yeah, this is a good chance because I work on 2-3 projects, I get papers, and then maybe I'll apply for the green card because I'll get a lot of letters from them. But as it turned out, it was only one project, and I finished it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there doing nothing for a long time, for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little surprised because a place like that, why would they keep me unoccupied, right? But I realized later that once they hire a postdoc, they want to keep that postdoc as a staff scientist because people don't generally want to go there, and they want staff scientists. So they have a thing that you will retain the postdocs and make them used to the work culture, and then they'll convert.
Actually, it is very rare because I was at Oak Ridge. I mean, there was no promise like that.
Okay.
So I mean, if you had that promise from them, I think you were very fortunate because at Oak Ridge they actually I went for an interview. They told us upfront, don't ever think that you're gonna become a staff scientist. So. But that's a good thing. I mean, so what happened after that then?
So it was very unproductive that time. I wanted to, move fast on it. And I thought if I get an opportunity to interact with so many people, then I can work on 2-3 things at the same time. But there was a bit of resistance from my immediate boss on that thing. He kept putting me in a situation where I was only working on one thing and I was getting it done pretty quickly, and then I was left with nothing much to do.
Uh-huh.
It was a little strange, and that made me realize I have to move on and move out of this because this is not going to change. Mm-hmm. I gave it 6 to 7 months and it didn't.
But why you were so worried? Because they were giving you an assurance for a job, right? So why you were...
Well, there wasn't an assurance. There was an assumption, obviously, that will happen. But I didn't want to stay there for 3 years, not knowing whether or not I'll become a staff scientist. There's a very high chance, but I just didn't feel like that place was, productive enough, or like that place was a good place for me in terms of productivity.
Okay,
At the
understood.
pace
So what
at
happens after
which
that? Yeah, so what happens after that?
I got an opportunity to do an academic postdoc at RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic,
Mm-hmm.
and again, in the work description, in the job offer, it was clearly mentioned that I'll be working on a lot of things like meshing, CFD, because they were doing an army project, and it is basically like a ballistic missile going through a cannon at sonic speeds, and things like that. What happens before and after the missile leaves the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
You have primary shock, you have a weak shock, you have a secondary shock, and how the shock actually reflects off of the surface. The ground.
Was it a permanent position or was it a contract base again?
It was a 2 year postdoc
2 year.
again.
Okay.
2 year postdoc.
So you finished 2 years
So
or you were there just for a year, looks like, or less than
I
that?
was there 6 months again. Again, what happened again was the location wasn't a problem. I was kind of enjoying working at the university, but what happened was instead of actually working on the army project, I ended up working on a vertical axis wind turbine startup. So there is this startup which is based in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually wanted to design the inlet duct of a vertical axis wind turbine. So they had given us some geometries which we were cleaning up on Siemens NX. Then we were meshing in Symmetrix, and then we were using Altair Acusol to do all the simulations. And I thought it's good to do it for a week or two, or maybe a month or two, but I kept doing it for 4 to 5 months.
So
And there was a time at which I tried to convey that this is not what I come here for, because I have a PhD and this is like bachelor's, master's level work.
mm-hmm.
Right? But there was no response coming in from the other side, like from the professor, as to why am I doing this. It's only towards the very end that I found out that there was some issue with the funding, and they were only putting me on this particular project as a bridge fund till the contract actually kicked in.
Got it.
The contract was supposed to start in August when I was hired, but we didn't even start the work till around late January, right? And when we did do some of the discussions on it, there was a lack of clarity on how we need to attack the problem. Like there is a point at which you have two finite element nodes collapsing, so it becomes one node.
Mm-hmm.
We need to choose a boundary condition, but we don't know what it is. But then the two professors, they started arguing. There's one professor who said, no, we need to look at it more from the molecular level. The other professor said we need to look at it more from the finite element standpoint, and they had an argument, they had a fight, and I was sitting over there, and then I didn't even understand what was happening. And I was a little scared because I was the one who's in charge of this, but then these two professors are fighting with one another, right?
So what happened after
And
that? Like you left?
I did, because at that point I had started applying for industry positions because I realized this postdoc business is not working
By
out
the
for
way,
me.
this time, all through this time, do you had a green card or no?
I didn't. I don't have a
Okay.
green card.
Okay, got it. So what
So
happened? You left and then you joined. Right now, you are at Baylor Medicine.
right, which seems to be working fine for me. So it's a new area of work, and I'm thankfully I have been able to take lead on the couple of projects that I'm working on. So that's good. That's a good thing.
So you are working there as a postdoc. Is it a postdoc again? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you
Right.
this question. You have been postdocs for almost, I would say, 2 complete years now, roughly
It's no 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
Uh,
And
I started
and
January last year.
right. But
And
um, your the PhD it took you almost 6 years, I would say, right? Master because
right,
you did master, but it took you 6 years there. So six
right.
years and okay. So you have been postdoc for 2 years, but still. So what? So right now, are they sponsoring your H1 or something? Baylor, right? The research H1 and all that. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm on an academic H1. I was on an academic H1 with RPI and with Baylor. So what happened was, I think there was a lack of planning on my end. So I actually thought that a postdoc will be a good idea for me because I'll be productive, I'll be publishing papers, and I'll move towards the green card and get recommendations. But
So what
my
happened?
first,
What happened? Like when you were at Los Alamos or even at RPI, why didn't you apply for a green card?
because both at Los Alamos, we submitted a paper at through the Los Alamos work for the 6 months I was there. We submitted it to one paper which my boss suggested, and we got a reject. Then we submitted it to another paper which my boss suggested, we got a reject. The third one we submitted and we got we got bad reviews, so they are sending a rebuttal. So that is what happened at Los Alamos, which I was very surprised about.
No, but
Like,
my question was different, Samik. My question was, why didn't you apply for green card? My question was not about the paper.
okay, I didn't apply because I thought that at least I can publish a paper or two and then get some recommendations from
Okay.
my boss at Lanel.
So why didn't you apply at RPI?
I didn't, again, I wanted to kind of become comfortable with the postdoc before I started applying because I thought that if I apply
I understand.
for the
Okay.
green card based on the academic H1,
Okay.
then I will have to be on the academic H1 till I get the green card, right? Which means that I need to like the postdoc position. And if I like it,
Have you spoken to any lawyer, or this is just your assumption?
I have spoken to a lawyer about what categories I can apply on, and they have listed out a couple of things. But what I keep hearing is it's gonna take 3 to 5 years on my profile on the EB1, either B or A, to get a green card. Now,
You can't
to
apply.
sustain
You cannot apply for B. You
I'm
cannot
not
apply,
sure.
you cannot apply for B unless and until Baylor applies in your behalf.
Right, and Baylor doesn't do that. They didn't do it for my boss either, who's an assistant prof, so it can only be A.
So yeah, so
And
A is where you have to apply on your own. I got my green card through A, so I know how the process is.
right, okay.
So yeah.
So the thing is that before I apply for the green card, I need to be in a position which I like enough to be there for 3 to 5 years because that's going to be the weight for the green card.
Anyway, but I can tell you more about that. That probably you have some other experience, but I can tell you my experience. But here is another thing. So you are at Baylor for almost 6 months now, roughly, right?
Yeah, 5, 6 months, yeah.
6 months, and so let me ask you, if I have to ask you, and I haven't, sorry, I didn't got a chance to look to a Google Scholar and all that, but how many citations you have right now?
70.
Okay, and okay, so, and let me ask you, what is your status on, if I have to ask you, recommendation letters? Are you comfortable getting the recommendation letters from your previous advisors from all the places that you have worked, including at ISC, or you are not sure?
I could get letters from UT. I could get letters from some of the other places as well. Definitely, I could conjure up 6 to 7, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So again, going back to the point, so you don't have a green card. A lawyer is saying you have to take another 3, 4, 5 years probably. Time is ticking. I guess that's where all this is coming from, right? What you are. So do you know what your plan is? What you have in your mind? Like, how would you now think about moving forward with your career? Because if you don't prepare, it could be a disaster, right? So what you have in your mind now? What do you think would be the best thing for you? And as you mentioned, right, you probably plan to go back to and whatever it is. But one thing I can tell you for sure, you have a very low citation. There is definitely. So I did not have this notion, but that's probably why the lawyer is saying. So, and especially as of now, because I don't know how tough it is and all that, but where you are now. So my notion would be, if you would have stayed at Los Alamos for a couple of more years, life would have been much easier for you in terms of getting a green card and all that, because from my experience and from my friends' experience and all that, it was easy for us to get a green card when we were at Oak Ridge. Much easier.
Mm-hmm.
It makes life much easier. And you were there at what year at Los Alamos? Yeah, 2019, right? So yeah, last year you were there. It's not that. Yeah, but as I said, because once the point here is what I'm saying is once you stay at a place, you develop credibility. You get because initially nobody publishes paper, right? But once you are there, first 6 months there's nothing. But what happens after that? That you start publishing more and more. And
Right,
that was the reason I'm saying. I mean, the thing is that if you keep changing places, the productivity will be zero.
right. Yeah,
Right?
true,
So
true.
you so you have
So
to
what
stay.
happened at Los Alamos was,
No, no, that's fine.
this is,
No, that's fine. I understand, but
yeah, yeah.
I have to move on with other questions. So let me ask you, what are your plans now? What do you think would be best thing for you to do? I mean, you are at Baylor. You can continue there working for I don't know how many years or something, but I think so. I have spoken to people who have spent 8 years in their postdoc. To be honest with you, I have spoken to people like that. I have spent 3 years in postdoc for myself, but I was fortunate enough to get out from there. I think if I would have put one more year, I would be in trouble. I think, but I was at right time. By the time I got my green card, and probably the wait another 6 months was the wait actually probably because the employer told me why don't you get green card and then you can join. But what I'm trying to tell you is that's what the probably the case with you also going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody nobody, I'm saying especially now, is has a is willing. And I'm not talking about working for Google or Amazon. That's a different story, right? Code sector we are talking about. It is extremely difficult now. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure like person like you or person like me, we want to also honor our degrees and we want to say we don't want to do something which we don't like. And that's happened with you also, right? If you're not going to enjoy, you're going to get frustrated and you're like, I'm out with it. So let's say tomorrow there's a company who's going to give you a job. They say, hey, here's a job for you. And this is a job as a design engineer for some LLC. And you're like, I'm really supposed to do this? And I know you're not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to enjoy it. So you have to make a good balance now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm asking. What do you have in your mind now? Do you have any plans now? I mean, to be honest with you, where you are right now, Baylor is an excellent place, and I think you're gonna do a pretty good job if you're gonna be there. The work you are doing on, I think some of the things which I can read. I'm not a biologist, but I think some of the things you're doing looks to me a pretty. To me, this is awesome experience. That's how I see it. And you are not late. What I'm saying is probably what you can do is spend another 1 year, right? But make sure get as much as knowledge, as much as papers as you can. Just don't be ideal because you need publication for you to kick in to the next level. Doesn't matter. You if you want to become a professor here, back in India, anywhere, you need publications, dude. You have everything except publications right now, to be honest with you, or citations. So my advice to you strongly is, mm, if I was you and looking at whatever I have known so far, I would stick to a place where I am because I think this is one of the best places to work, and what you're doing, right? Is it? And the way I see it, I don't know about the work, but the way I see it is that you have a good brand there. So I like that. I really like that. I'm gonna go with it, and then I'm gonna say, in that 1 year, my priority is to work as much hard as I can, so that I am able to apply for my green card if I decide to stay here. Okay, that's and now I mean I applied in 2013 or 2014 sometime, and I got it pretty easily, and some of my friends got in 3-4 months. But now even I know EB1 is almost 1 or 2 year delay. Even for one of my friend is a professor here. He got it took him 2 years, which was unheard of actually. So I'm saying even we are seeing delays now on those categories also. So my advice would be is you have to keep that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but at the same time, keep applying for jobs which you think you're gonna enjoy. Because as I said, you can find a job, somebody is gonna say, yeah, please come. But again, you will need an H1. There is no way you can work. There is no way, right? So you have to apply for jobs at a place where they sponsor H1s right away. And problem with you now, you are not an OPT, so you don't have flexibility to join anytime you want. You
Mm-hmm.
you can you can only join in October now, and it, and
Right.
and that window comes once in a year.
Right.
Right, so this is exactly in the position that happens to a lot of people. And I was the way I can see it, I know because I was exactly at the same place. But then I knew the only way I can get out from that problem is if I have a green card.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, this is the in that sense. And to be honest with you, if you are not going to work on it right now, even you can be as brilliant as you want, you will end up on this what we call postdoc loop forever.
Mm-hmm.
And God forbid you don't want to do that,
Right.
right? So my advice to you would be unless and until you are able to find an academic job in a university, because that will be you can apply it anytime. But again, I don't know about your references. I don't know about how your publications look, that you have less number of citations, so that's not going to pan out. But I think for you, ap- either get a green card and go to industry is one option, and you can understand the timeline and what you have to do, or go to an academic position, go apply for faculty position, which you can do now also. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, I don't see that why you don't you could have a good chance, to be honest, because I think you have a very good brands associated with your and you have a good resume. Talking to you looks like you really like your work and you know what your work is. I think this is very important, to be honest. So I don't see like why there will be a problem. So as I said, apply for green card, industry, that's one thing. Unless until you are lucky enough to find a job, get a job, and get an H1 too, by the way, and go for it in October. So there are many ifs and buts there, right? So you can imagine the probability. Number two would be open-ended job as a faculty position. You can apply either here or back home. So that those are the two cases in my opinion I see, actually, to be honest. And
Mm-hmm.
in first case, I see the probability is low. You can apply for a green card, but as I said, the chances, even if, see, what I'm saying is, I remember and I know a couple of my friends who have same cases, and this is actually, to be honest with you, this is extremely important for you, rather than anything. So I want to spend some more time here. The lawyer told us that minimum citation, that he was saying that I'm comfortable with applying for you on your behalf if you have citations close to 400 for
Mm-hmm.
EB1. So at that time, we had that amount of citation. I had those. I mean, I can
Right.
get a recommendation like I told you, you can get a good statement of work and whatever they need, but something that's gonna miss is the citations from your end,
Mm.
and that's why I think she's saying I'm not comfortable for you to apply on EB1. I'm not sure if she will be comfortable, to be honest.
She can. She said like she could do EB1 for me, but I didn't have a more detailed discussion with her on the specifics of how long it will take and everything. So,
To be honest with you, I'm talking you about at least 8 years back or 7 years back, and this was my discussion with the lawyer,
mm,
and I
right,
can tell you 70 would be very low.
right, right.
And I'm not saying that you can't get a good references, but I'm telling you what is the sure short way you will get it. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, there will
Right.
always be a probability, right? Yeah, 50-50. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what's going to make your case 99.9% and based on my information, based on my friends who were there, and nobody I think will disagree what I'm saying, that that's how we got it. and
Yeah.
and I had references from all over the world, to be honest with you. I have
Mm-hmm.
references from, and for EB1, the references you look for are two types: dependent and independent. So all your references that you get from your advisor and everyone are dependent references, and they